How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody had a great weekend. Sounds like some of y'all had fun. Leanne at Crabtree Valley Mall. Wow. Etta, where are you going to? It looks like you're packing. Where are you going? What's your next adventure? Seems like you're always going somewhere cool. It's good to see everybody. Fantastic. Moving to Cincinnati. Holy cow. What in the world? What's in Cincinnati that you want to see? Hi, Heather. Good to see you. Ashley, I was expecting you to show up in my office today. I guess not. Maybe next time, right? Husband's new job. Okay, cool. Hopefully he's making a bunch of money. All right. Looks like we have a small but dedicated crowd. So let's go ahead and get started. So today we're talking about Chapter 17, Physical Development in Late Adulthood. So we're talking about 60 and over. So around retirement to after that. We're going to talk a little bit about longevity and theories of aging, neurological changes, physical changes, sensory changes, health problems, sex, and sleep today. Okay, so we're going to be doing physical changes. This week's Wednesday webinar, we're going to be talking about late adulthood, and I have a gentleman who is 109 who I want you to meet. We've got a great video of him, his philosophy on life, how he's managed to live to be 109. I think you'll find this guy incredibly inspirational. I've also got a couple of more academic talks on aging. So please don't forget, if you're coming to webinar on Wednesday, to go ahead and watch these videos. Okay? But, so let's see, got some. Do you want my sign that I made for you whenever we showed up? Yes, absolutely. I do want that sign, Leanne. Hi, Lane. It's good to see you. Thanks for stopping in today. Good to see you. All right, we got a pretty good office. Yeah, and that's good advice that Ashley's giving. The tutoring center is very useful, and I suggest you use it. Let's go ahead and get started with our lecture for today. So, if you remember, we talked about the rectangularization of aging now. You'll look at the survivorship curve underneath me. And what you'll see are three different survivorship curves, one for trees, one for birds, and one for humans. You'll notice that most trees don't make it out of infancy, but the ones that do last a long time. Birds tend to have a more diagonal survival curve. And you look at humans, and so we live, most of us live to be quite an old age these days. The maximum lifespan, which is the maximum number of years that an individual lived. This is a guesstimate, of course, but we think that humans have an average lifespan of about 100 to 120 to 125 years. That's about as old as we get. Your typical house sparrow is going to last about 13 years. But the number of, and so that's the maximum lifespan. On the other hand, average life expectancy is the number of years that the average person, average bird, average tree will live to be. And you'll notice that trees have a very low average lifespan. Birds, their average lifespan isn't as good as humans. And humans have this amazing average lifespan. I don't know if you know, but the estimates are that in the United States by 2030 that the average lifespan will be 81 years for women and 77 years for men. The average lifespan of a house sparrow is about 3 years, which is 25% of their maximum lifespan. So you'll see lots of things take sparrows out early in their lifespan. Now, you'll notice they say in South Korea, which tends to have the best longevity in the world, the average lifespan by 2030 is going to be 90 years of age. Over half of all South Koreans will live to be at least 90. That's 75% of the maximum lifespan. Now, I have a really cool video. It's a data visualization that shows you how average lifespan has changed all over the world from the early 1800s to today. And it's a fabulous 4-minute video that does a great job of demonstrating how we can use data visualization to really show us how things change. And it's amazing because it shows you how important medicine and infrastructure are in determining average lifespan in a society. Okay, so please watch that longevity video before you come to class on Wednesday. Why are there differences in life expectancy across countries? Access to medical care, infant and child mortality, homicide rate, body mass index. So, if your country has great access to medical care, a lot of countries have better access to medical care than the United States these days with our insurance system. That's going to help you live a long time because you're going to catch problems early before you get sick. Absolutely, BMI. BMI is going to be predicted by your diet, Davina. So the countries that eat healthier and exercise are going to have lower BMIs than the countries that don't. I think that's a good idea. That's a good point. Actually, infant and child mortality is relatively high in the United States compared to other developed countries. And so all of these things are going to affect life expectancy across countries. And when you watch the short data visualization video, they'll give you a good appreciation for how these qualities affect average lifespan. Now, a little bit about centenarians and super centenarians. Really, really old people. Centenarians are those people who live to be 100 years or older, and super centenarians are those who live to be 110 or older. Did you know that we have an increase in centenarians each year in industrialized countries because we have such good health care? We know so much about how people can live happier, healthier lives. We are increasing the number of centenarians each year in industrialized countries by 7%. I don't know if you knew this, but there were 72,000 centenarians in the United States in 2014. And they say by 2050, there will be over 600,000 centenarians in the United States. My grandmother at 101 is one of the centenarians living in the United States. Now, super centenarians are those people who live to be 110 or older. You know what? There are actually 350 to 400 in the world. I don't know if any of you folks saw the news earlier this week, but the oldest person in the United States, a lady who was 109, died this past week. The oldest person in the United States. 350 to 400 of these people in the world. And you know what? They're not as sick as you think. And the reason they're not sick is because they're living so. It's their health that's allowing them to live to be 110. So the fellow that you're going to meet on for our webinar is 109 years old, and this dude still lives on his own and drives his own car and has a girlfriend. And he is not nearly as sick as you think. And what we can say is there's a term we use to describe these people called the compression of morbidity. And so these people who are centenarians and super centenarians really delay the onset of those chronic conditions that usually cause people to die. So they don't have heart trouble. They get so old and their blood sugar is great and their heart rate is great and their weight is great and their minds really stay strong and sharp. And we call that compression of morbidity. So my grandma, who's 101 years old, right? That is successful age in Ashley. My grandma, until probably the last 6 months, she was driving her car at 100 years of age and was really sharp in her mind. Now, in the last month or two, she's kind of really lost a little bit up here, and you can see some of the dementia coming into her personality. But she really, really delayed that. We call that term compression of morbidity. Now, Okinawa, the highest ratio of centenarians in the world. There are 34 centenarians for every 100,000 inhabitants. There are 380 million people in the United States. I wonder if we had that many centenarians, how many centenarians we would have in the United States right now. Why does Okinawa have so many old people? Well, it's because they tend to have a better diet, high in fish and vegetables, and low in fatty foods and fried stuff. The low stress lifestyle. They have a caring community. They really have better communities than do other cultures. These people tend to stay very, very active and demonstrate a strong spirituality. And when you meet my 109-year-old friend on Wednesday, you will find out that he has all of these characteristics. He pays cash for everything and has fun. So he has a low stress lifestyle. He goes to church and has a girlfriend. So he has community and spirituality. And he stays active doing things every day. And he even takes himself a little drink of whiskey every day. And all of these things contribute to his longevity. And remember, how old you live is not so much determined by your genes as it is by your health behaviors. And you can start those health behaviors today, my friend. Get yourself in shape. Find a community. Decrease your stress. Be active and find a way to be spiritual, right? You know what? In fact, people are living so old now that we even divide old age into two categories, 65 to 84 and 85 and over, which because men die more at younger ages than female, you're going to see that these old people are mostly female. And so what you're going to see is the physical and mental degradation that we used to discuss in old age, in late adulthood, which we used to associate with 65 and 70-year-olds. You know what? If you engage in the proper lifestyle behaviors, we typically don't see those in the people who engage in the healthy lifestyles from 65 to 84. So we like to think of those people as being old, but young old. Now, starting around 80, what you're going to find, 85, you're going to find that the effects of exercise and some of these other things that I tell you can protect you from the effects of old age aren't going to work quite as well after the age of 85. That's when Mother Nature's really going to start to take her toll, and maybe your health behaviors aren't going to be quite as useful anymore. But you know what? You can still enjoy that time from 65 to 84 if you will just engage in health behaviors, maintain low stress, find yourself a community of people, and be active. And you know what? People are living so long now that we now a good way, what we like to do is talk about age in terms of functional age. So don't talk about age as a number. Remember, getting old is just a number. Instead, think about functional age. That is people's ability to function. And you know what? An 85-year-old who can still drive, who's still got a sharp mind, who can still walk and exercise and do all those things is actually younger, if you think about it, than that 65-year-old who's really sick and is experiencing cognitive decline. So maybe it's better to talk about functional age rather than it is to talk about chronological age. Okay, there you go. Hi, Dee Dee. It's good to see you. Yeah, right. Etta, you ought to see this guy. He says that he takes a shot of whiskey in the morning, and he says, you know what? If I want 2 shots of whiskey, I'll take 2 shots of whiskey. And he's kind of funny in that way. And he says that he eats ice cream every day because it makes me happy. And you know what, doggone it? If it makes you happy and leads to a low-stress lifestyle, then maybe a little bit of butter pecan ice cream is not a bad thing every day, right? And he highly suggests that you eat butter pecan ice cream. Oh, he's an absolutely hilarious guy, Heather. When you watch this fella's video, you will absolutely fall in love with him. He is the coolest old guy. He is definitely living the good life, Leanne. So I think you'll really enjoy this video for Wednesday's webinar. Now, why exactly do people get old? Your book talks about 4 theories of aging. One is the evolutionary theory. And what they suggest is that the sicknesses that often kill us occur after childbearing years, which means naturally selected protections haven't developed. If people died of heart disease at 12 and 13 and 14, then we would evolve protections against heart disease. But heart disease comes after people have gone through the childbearing years, which means the genes that predict heart disease aren't selected against in the environment. So some people think that the sicknesses that kill people are just the ones that come after the childbearing years. Now, the second, it's no secret that older people have weaker immune systems than younger people. And so the hormonal stress theory suggests that young and old people both experience stress, but the young people's immune systems that protect us from the negative effects of stress begin to weaken as we get older. And so older people are more susceptible to the effects of stress and the diseases related to stress, like heart disease and cancer. And so those are two sort of theoretical theories, two theories of aging. Now, your genetic or cellular process theories are the cellular clock theory and the free radical theory. Now, if you look at the picture of the X chromosome over there in the bottom left-hand corner of this screen, you'll see at the end of your chromosomes you have these things called telomeres, the tips of the chromosomes, and these are the DNA sequences that cap chromosomes. There's actually research to suggest that as the cell, every time the cell divides and these chromosomes divide, these telomeres fray just a little bit. And the fraying of these telomeres is what prevents your cells and your chromosomes from being able to divide. And so there's this number called the Hayflick phenomenon, which says that cells can divide a maximum of 75 to 80 times. As we age, the new cells that our body regenerates are less capable of dividing. According to the Hayflick phenomenon, the upper limit of life is around 120 to 125 years. So the fraying of these telomeres at the end of your chromosomes might be what predicts how long you are going to live. And then you'll hear people on health shows and health advertisements talking about free radicals, and you need to avoid free radicals and eat food that decrease the number of free radicals in your body. And so aging, according to free radical theory, aging is caused by normal metabolic processes in cells that produce unstable oxygen molecules that ricochet inside cells, damaging your DNA and cellular structures. One of the things that's associated with an increase in free radicals is overeating and bad diet. And one of the things that we know is that people who live longer tend to eat less. So caloric restriction, while still getting your adequate protein, minerals, and vitamins, does seem to reduce free radicals. So again, there's evidence for watching your diet and trying to eat a very healthy diet and minimizing your calories. Free radical theory is calling you out, Leanne. That's fun. Very cute. Very cute. I know, all of us are having habits that aren't excuse me, that aren't that happy. So we definitely have to really work on developing good eating and drinking exercise habits. Excuse me. Wow, I'm losing it. Now, what happens as we get older? Did you know that your brain actually shrinks as you get older? Between the ages of 20 and 9, your brain loses 5 to 10% of its weight. It actually gets smaller. Why does your brain volume decrease? It decreases to the shrinkage of neurons. You get fewer synapses. Remember, early in development, we say that our synapses were experiencing synaptic growth, and that's what causes the brain to grow. So we're losing synapses. Our axons are shrinking and becoming less complex, and we're having less tree branching of the dendrites. The prefrontal cortex shrinks the most. Your problem-solving, creative thinking, focusing brain is the one that shrinks the most. It's not necessarily the loss of neurons, but it's the loss of the connections between the neurons that leads to the shrinkage of your brain. Not only is the brain shrinking, but it is slowing. The slowing of the function in the brain and spinal cord begins in middle adulthood, yay, my age, and accelerates into late adulthood. And it's going to affect your coordination and your intellectual performance, just like it speeds up early in childhood, which improves your coordination, and your intellectual performance, it starts to slow down as you get a little bit older. Aging is linked to a reduction in synaptic functioning and also the production of neurotransmitters. And remember, neurotransmitters are what activate neurons in your brain. Now, remember last week we said that your brain still adapts so that you can maintain your cognitive functionings as long as possible. Now, here's the deal. Your brain is still growing new neurons even into late adulthood. And you know what? If you learn new things, you are still experiencing some dendritic growth. So continuing to learn is going to help those dendrites go in your brain. I know, don't get depressed, Ashley. Getting older sucks. And as we suggested, older brains do rewire to compensate for losses. And last week we talked about the lateralization. We said your brain's not working as fast, and those little areas, localized areas of function, aren't working as specifically as they did. But your brain increases in its function. So you have a decrease in lateralization. That is one part of the brain working. Instead, both hemispheres of your brain begin to work together. And that helps to improve or hold off the deficits of intellectual functioning that we typically associate with late adulthood. Yeah, we're growing back to babies when we get older. That's an interesting way to think about it. The circle of life, Leanne. I like that. Compressing the best of you. It's very poetic, Edith. Good job. Good job. Now, as you're moving into latehood, you're going to get those wrinkle in those age spots, and you're going to shorten due to bone loss in your vertebrae. As I suggested to you, I topped out at 5, 6 3/4 as an 18-year-old man, and I am now down to 5, 6 1/2. I'm starting to shrink because my spine is going to compress. And you know what? You're actually going to decrease a little bit of weight after 60 due to muscle loss. You know, my dad, he's actually heavier, looks heavier than me, and he's not as in shape as me, but he weighs less than me. And it's because he has less muscles, man. I'm in the gym working out, trying to build my muscles up. And if you grab my dad, he's kind of soft, you know what I mean? And fat doesn't weigh nearly as much as muscle. And so your weight is actually going to drop after 60, but due to muscle loss. Now, your lung capacity does drop 40% between the ages of 20 and 80, and you are going to experience an increase in cardiovascular disorders as you get older. I don't know if you knew this, but 2/3 of people in late adulthood have high blood pressure. And high blood pressure is more common in men than in women. It's probably that fight or flight response and the testosterone that causes us to have higher blood pressure than females. Now, there are some behavioral things you can do to minimize that increase in blood pressure. Sickness boosts your blood pressure up because you're stressed out. Obesity, anxiety, lack of exercise, and stiffening of the blood vessels are all associated with high blood pressure. I know, Leanne, and I don't want to pick on you or make you feel bad, but I swear, darling, if you could start exercising and really try to get yourself in a healthier diet, it would really help your soul out, my dear. I really want you to be healthy. And the best thing you can do is to get a calorie counter and take stock of everything you eat every day. Because a lot of times people eat automatically. You don't think about it. You walk past the refrigerator and grab something and stick it in your mouth. One of the things that I found when I lost weight was by getting a calorie counter, my eating went from unconscious to conscious and thoughtful. And I had a chance to evaluate myself every time I got ready to eat something. And I found it was easier for me to control my eating. So hopefully you can do the same, Leanne. Now, falling is actually a real danger for Americans. And my father, who has a prosthetic leg because he lost his left leg to cancer, falls quite a bit. And it kind of scares me. I'll go over there once or twice a month and he will have fallen and his face will be a little messed up or it'll be bruised. I don't know if you know this, but over 2,000 Americans fall and fracture a hip every year. And if your grandma or grandpa falls and breaks a hip, they are 50% likely to die within a year. Falling and breaking a hip is not a good thing in late adulthood. Women typically are at higher risk for falling. And you know what? Although falls accidents are only the number 7 leading cause of death in older adulthoods, falling is the number 1 cause of accidental death for older adults. And if you can, the more you exercise as you get older, the less likely you are to experience a fall. One of the reasons that my father has so many falls is because he has trouble picking up that heavy fake leg. He used to be able to move it more easily when he was younger, but now he's older. He has trouble moving that prosthetic leg, and so that causes him to fall. But if you can exercise and stay healthy and keep up your strength, it allows you to avoid falling as an adult. I want you to improve yourself in the best way you can too, Leanne. That's why I'm happy you're still in school and taking all these classes. You want to improve the mind, and you want to improve the health if you can. Yes, you count fruits and vegetables on the calorie counter. Good question, Heather. Fruits and vegetables have much fewer calories than your typical meat or pastas, but they still have calories. However, one of the things that I like when I was using the calorie counter, Heather, is I found fruits and vegetables that I really, really liked. Vegetables have less calories than fruits because they have less sugar. But I found that there were vegetables I really, really liked to eat that I could fill up on, and that really helped me, when I wanted a snack to eat, I knew what to go eat. So instead of getting that one cookie, I could eat a whole freaking bowl of carrots and still not even get half the calories. Now, I know some people, I think it's the Nutrisystem diet my wife follows, where they don't count points. They use points, and they don't count points for fruits and vegetables because those are healthy. And that's a good way to think about eating. Fruits and vegetables are way better than meats and breads and whatnot. But they still do have some calories, but not very many, not very many. And I really got to the habit, man. I always look at the package before I buy some or eat something to see the calories. 1 freaking tablespoon of peanut butter is going to have like 200 calories, whereas you can eat almost a whole bag of carrots and it has 50 or 60 calories. So while vegetables do have some calories, learning about calories using a calorie counter will direct you to the less dense, less calorie intense foods. Okay? Weight Watchers, that's what it is. Weight Watchers, they count breads or meat. Vegetables still have calories, but they have so relatively fewer calories that Weight Watchers sort of counts them as 0 points. That's up to you, but I went with a straight calorie counter, set my number for 1,700 calories a day, and then that's what I used until I lost the weight that I needed. So I highly suggest you try calorie counter out, Heather. Now, how do our senses change as we get older? Our hearing. Hearing is very, very important. And a decline in hearing is linked to a decrease in leisure activity, daily living activities, loneliness, and cognitive decline. If you can't hear people, you start to pull away from the world because you can't interact with people effectively. And so hearing is very important for maintaining happiness and cognitive decline. Now, hearing loss starts at the high and medium frequencies, and you can get hearing aids and cochlear implants to help, and they're more likely in the oldest old than in the young old. So my grandma at 101 has she has hearing aids. She still can't hear very well, and you have to talk very loud when you speak to her because she has trouble hearing. And it's caused her to sort of withdraw a little bit socially. Hearing and visual loss happens much faster after 75. So again, this is why we have that young, old, and oldest old differentiation now. Because from 60 to 75, you're not going to have as much of that sensory loss as you will after the age of 75. I'm looking at Edda's comment. Wow, that's an interesting and potentially disappointing comment to hear, Edda. I hope that's not true. Wow, disappointing. I do like my carrots and my celery. Now, there is some impairment in the sense of touch for most people at this age. However, a decrease in touch sensitivity is not necessarily related to problems. Older people are going to detect less touch in the lower extremities, and it turns out that as you get older, you have a lower pain sensitivity for those basic aches and pains. So those aches and pains that bother you at 30 and 40 are not going to bother you at 70 and 80. Now, severe pains are still going to hurt just as much in late adulthood as they do at any other age. But your lower aches and pains that would typically bother you as a 30 or 40-year-old, you're not going to worry about them in late adulthood. And you know what? This decreased sensitivity to pain can help adults cope with disease and injury. However, sometimes it does mask injuries and illnesses that need to be treated. So sometimes when I talk to my father, who is now 81, he'll let nagging pains go, and it helps him because he has arthritis now, and so it helps him deal with the pain of arthritis. But you know what? Sometimes there are serious illnesses that my dad misses that he doesn't pay attention to because he ignores the pain. And you know what? You're going to find almost 2/3 of all older adults report some persistent pain. So my dad and my stepmother both have pain related to arthritis in their hands and their knees, and they're always complaining about it. Now my Nana, who lived to 101 and had that compression of morbidity, she hasn't felt any pain in her entire life. She's been pain-free up until 101. Wow, how amazing is that? Now, you do begin to lose a little bit of your smell and taste around the age of 60. It's just not as sharp as it was before. And the majority of oldest people are going to experience some sort of significant reduction in smell after 80. Remember, we're talking about the difference between young, old, and the oldest old. So it's only when you get to the oldest old that you're going to start to have that significant reduction in smell. And you know what? Not being able to smell the roses can be associated with depression in adults. The sense of smell, and I thought for taste, are very important for your happiness. With the cancer therapy, I lost my ability to taste things. And I can't tell you how depressing it is to smell something wonderful and to take a bite and have it taste like crap. I was visiting my cousin this weekend, and we stopped in a Krispy Kreme donut store. I'm now eating solid food, and I got a glazed donut hot off the oven there, man. You know how awesome Krispy Kreme donuts smell and taste, and it smelled absolutely fabulous. And I took a big bite, and I chewed it for about 10 seconds, and I realized I couldn't taste that Krispy Kreme donut. I can't even begin to tell you how depressing it was not being able to taste the awesomeness of a Krispy Kreme glazed donut. Yes, it does suck, Heather, and the doctor says it'll come back within 2 to 5 months. Right, Leanne? Life just isn't worth living without Krispy Kreme donuts, man. I just don't know what to tell you. Now, right? So, as you get older, the probability of having some disease or illness increases with age. Chronic diseases with slow onset and long duration are common in late adulthood. And if you remember, we'll go back to the chart of leading causes of death at different age groups that you'll see on the far left-hand side of this screen. The 3 leading causes of death during late adulthood are heart disease, cancer, and chronic respiratory disease, COPD, and other breathing-related disorders. Now, accidents are the number 7 leading cause of death. Remember, accidents are the leading cause of death for most of your life, but in late adulthood they drop down to 7th. But I point that out here because, as I suggested to you, you really have to be careful with falls later in life, because a lot of the accidental deaths that occur from falling. Did you know that nearly 60% of people from 65 to 74-year-olds of age die of cancer or cardiovascular disease? almost 3/4 of us are going to die from some form of heart disease or cancer. So please, for the love of God, quit smoking and vaping. Quit smoking and vaping and get yourself on a diet. Get yourself on a diet. When I went in for cancer, the doctor didn't care that I had smoked marijuana. The doctor didn't care that I had drank a lot of alcohol. But when the doctor found out that I had smoked 2 packs of cigarettes from 16 to 30 years of age, that's all the doctor wanted to talk about. That's all, every doctor. I met probably half a dozen different doctors on my cancer team, and every one of them was absolutely upset and really, really worried when they found out I had smoked cigarettes. Even though I quit over 20 years ago, that was still the main thing they talked about. So please, 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 if you're smoking or vaping, try to quit smoking. I know it's really, really hard, and it was super duper hard for me. But if you can get over the hump and put those cigarettes down, your heart and your body will love you. I know my mom died of chronic respiratory disease at 67, the third leading cause of death, and she smoked 3 packs a day till the day she died. In fact, she would go to the hospital and they'd have to put her on oxygen, and on the way home from ICU, she would make my father stop and buy her a pack of cigarettes. And I remember her laying on the couch with oxygen. She could hardly move, smoking cigarettes. And it was really sad to watch her die that way. There you go. It took her to have cancer. Well, at least something caused her to stop. I know, Leanne, it was absolutely horrible. Now, osteoporosis, more common in females than in males, and this is related to the extensive loss of bone tissue, which causes your older adults to walk with a stoop. Drink your milk, get your vitamin D pills, and take your osteoporosis preventing drugs as you get older. Now, my father has arthritis, which is an inflammation of the joints, and he definitely suffers from pain and stiffness. He used to be a golfer and a bowler up until probably 4 or 5 years ago, and his hands began hurting him so bad that he had to give up bowling and golfing, which has decreased the quality of his happiness and quality of life for him. In fact, his fingers are quite crooked and twisted now due to this rheumatic arthritis. Arthritis is related to vitamin D loss, estrogen loss, and lack of exercise. So keep drinking your milk and keep going to the gym if you want to help prevent arthritis. Okay, that's all I really had to talk about today. Yes, it was incredibly frustrating for me and my father to watch my mom smoke herself into a grave. She quit for 6 months, probably about the age of 60, and she blossomed when she quit. Her energy came back, her color came back. She was like a different person, Heather, but then she fell off the wagon and we saw her progress. And it was just heartbreaking to watch my mom die at the age of 65. Without going back, if she had stayed quit that last time, I guarantee you she'd have made it into her 70s, mid-70s. And it was just hard to lose my mom at such a young age. And I don't want that to happen to any of you. Did we quit the vision? We did. I wonder. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I thought this lecture went kind of quickly. Huh. Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Etta. She definitely needs to quit. Now, vision is very important because a decline in visual abilities is going to be linked to a decreased frequency of grooming and completing household chores, fewer social contacts. You're going to engage in less challenging leisure activities and ultimately cognitive decline, which occurs as a result of becoming less active. So you want to, if you can, stay on top of that vision as you get older and address any problems that occur. Visual processing speed slows down just like all other processing in the brain slows down as you get older. And did you know that your retina receives only 1/3 of the light at 60 as it did at 20? And this is why older adults have trouble driving at night. Now, my dad, 81, frankly, he's such a terror on the road. we really try to keep him from ever driving the car. But he really can't drive at all at night because his vision is so bad. Your visual field decreases and you need more stimulation for your peripheral vision, so you need more light to drive. Dark adaptation takes longer. Dark adaptation is when your eyes get used to the dark. You know, at night when you cut off the lights at night, how after about 30 seconds you can begin to see inside a dark room. That's called dark adaptation. That takes a little bit longer as you get older. And as I suggested to you, night driving becomes much more difficult in late adulthood. And you really, really, really need to pay attention to your parents as they get older and really start to make hard decisions about when it's time to take the keys away from them. My advisor, I actually had 2 advisors in graduate school in the psych department that died of accidents because they failed to see things. One of my advisors got into a car wreck and died at the age of 70. And another one of my advisors got hit by a car going to a Carolina basketball game. He crossed the road without seeing a car at night, and the car ran him down and killed him. Both of these gentlemen were in their 70s, and I would say that their accidental deaths, the number 7 cause of death, occurred because their vision wasn't as good as it used to be. You know, you can still drive in the 70s, but you have to just keep an eye on them, and you can tell when their vision gets to the point where they become a danger on the road. Common diseases of the eye in late adulthood are cataracts. Thickening of the eye lens causes vision to become cloudy, opaque, and disordered. This is pretty common. In fact, my grandma, my dad, and my stepmother have all had cataracts removed. 30% of people by the age of 70 are going to have cataracts. And you know what? The cool thing about cataracts is they can go in for outpatient surgery and get the cataracts removed with very little pain or difficulty. It sounds kind of weird having your eyes operated on. My dad was totally freaked out before he had his cataract surgery, but it really improved his vision, and he was super duper happy after he did it. Now, some people develop damage to the optic nerve because of fluid buildup in the eye, and that's caused glaucoma. And then what you're going to see looking right below me, you see what a person with macular degeneration has, which is degeneration of the retina's macula, which is kind of like the center of the retina area, which it corresponds to the focal center of the visual field. Macular degeneration is hard to treat and is the leading cause of blindness in older adults. Yes, it is very scary being in the car with older adults, and at some point you just have to convince them that it's time to give up the keys. All right, now 1:42. Okay, the timing feels a little bit better. I'm done with my lecture today. Does anyone have any questions for me? Any comments? Anybody want to say anything before we end the lecture? Thank you very much for coming today. Please don't forget, if you're coming to webinar on Wednesday night, I want you to watch the videos on aging, and you have got to watch the video of my friend, the 109-year-old fellow, and find out what it means to live a glorious, victorious life until 109. Okay, great. Thank you, Leanne. I appreciate your kind comments. No problem, Ash. Good to see everybody. Hey, thanks for cooperating, participating in the lecture. You folks made this lecture much more interesting and better with your questions and comments. Right? Every time I run into somebody I haven't seen in a couple of weeks, they say, wow, you're looking much better, Chris. So I can tell I'm finally getting back to health. Thank you, Lane. Good to see you as well. Folks, take care, and I will see you Wednesday morning for a lecture. If I don't see you till Wednesday night, take care. Don't hesitate to send me a text or an email. Until next time, bye.